Do you know why your kindness feels like a personal curse today? You sense something is wrong, but you blame only yourself again. If you want to stay gentle, without staying broken, listen carefully. A gentle mind is built for emotional balance, not endless psychological combat. It wants peace, stability, and sincere connection, not constant strategic control. This sounds noble, but inside a manipulative culture, it becomes a visible weakness. You are not weak in value, you are weak in compatibility. The game played around you rewards cold calculation and punishes transparent softness. So you keep losing battles that you never even agreed to fight. Dark psychology starts with this one brutal truth: soft hearts are not designed for cruel systems. Gentle minds usually follow three hidden scripts without ever checking them consciously. First, they assume people mean their words exactly as spoken without secret layers. Second, they believe good intention will always invite at least basic respect. Third, they think emotional honesty is a bridge, not a weapon against them. These scripts feel moral, but they silently train you to ignore dangerous signals. You overlook tone, patterns, timing, and repetition because you focus only on spoken content. A manipulative mind exploits precisely this gap between what is said and what is signaled. Machiavelli once said, "If you understand fear, you understand how people can be moved." Cruel minds use a similar rule when dealing with gentle personalities every day. They study what you fear the most: rejection, conflict, guilt, or disappointing anyone. Then they build emotional cages from those exact fears while pretending to care. They never say, "I control you," yet your reactions follow their invisible design. Dark psychology calls this emotional architecture, the structure that shapes your choices without force. Notice how often you feel responsible for the tension in every interaction. You replay conversations in your head, searching for where you sounded wrong. You rarely consider that someone carefully pushed you into that uncomfortable state on purpose. This is the first reason gentle minds stay unhappy: they absorb relational debts. They pay for emotional electricity that other people are freely consuming without cost. Your constant self-correction becomes unpaid labor that maintains harmony for everyone except you. Albert Bandura once said, "If behavior is rewarded, the mind repeats it automatically." Society rewards emotional control, not emotional honesty, and you see this from childhood. The loud, demanding person often gets attention, the patient listener gets quiet exhaustion. The one who creates fear receives obedience, the one who absorbs fear receives silence. Slowly, your nervous system learns a hard lesson: kindness rarely brings immediate visible power. Your mind records this pattern, but your values refuse to adjust to it. So you feel an internal split. One side loves peace, the other side hates helplessness. This split creates chronic unhappiness because you cannot fully commit to either strategy. You refuse to become cruel, yet you also refuse to fully protect your boundaries. The result is emotional limbo. You stay exposed, but you also stay ashamed. Manipulative people notice this split faster than you notice your own breathing pattern. They recognize that you want to be seen as kind and understanding. So they frame every criticism as if you are failing your own values. They say a caring person would stay a little longer during their emotional storms. They say a loyal person would not question this repeated disrespectful tone. They say a strong person would never take space for their own healing. None of this is true strength. This is engineered guilt built to keep you compliant. You are punished with silence, distance, sarcasm, or disappointment whenever you resist their script. Your nervous system starts fearing boundary setting as if it is an act of cruelty. Dark psychology explains that gentle minds are most vulnerable to three emotional weapons. The first weapon is manufactured guilt that attacks your identity, not your behavior. Instead of saying you did something wrong, they suggest you are becoming a bad person. Your soft conscience cannot tolerate this accusation, so you rush to repair everything alone. The second weapon is selective appreciation. They praise you only when you overextend yourself. You start chasing that rare approval like a starving mind, chasing emotional crumbs. The third weapon is controlled chaos. They create sudden drama whenever you pull back slightly. Your system associates distance with danger, so you return to them just to stop the storm. These three weapons keep you trapped between anxiety and relief. Long-term, joy disappears quietly. You never truly learned that emotional distance can be an act of wisdom. You were trained to see distance as coldness or abandonment, not self-respect. So you keep moving closer to the very people who drain your energy. You apologize faster than them, you explain more than them, you bend sooner than them. Every time you do this, you teach their psychology that your limits are negotiable. Once a manipulative mind learns that your no can be softened, it becomes a door. That door never stays half open, it slowly disappears from your internal map. You wake up one day feeling used, confused, and strangely guilty for feeling hurt. Over time, you stop trusting your inner signals and start trusting external reactions. This is why even small disapproval feels like a heavy storm inside you. Your nervous system forgets calm as the default state and memorizes tension as normal. Here is the quiet tragedy: your gentle nature is not the enemy. The real enemy is the untrained strategy wrapped around that gentle nature. No one taught you how to pair softness with sharp perception and firm boundaries. No one told you that peace without power only invites energetic predators toward you. So you kept believing that more kindness would eventually melt cruelty into understanding. The system around you knew this and kept feeding that belief for its benefit. The more you waited for recognition, the more invisible your pain became socially. The more invisible your pain became, the more normal your exploitation looked to others. Can a gentle mind stay kind while also becoming untouchable to this manipulation? Do you know why your empathy feels heavier than it should today? You sense every small shift in people, but ignore the shift within you. If you want your gentle nature to survive this culture, understand the unseen rules. A gentle mind absorbs emotional signals faster than others notice them consciously. This sensitivity is not a flaw, it is a powerful sensory system. Yet without strategic awareness, this system turns into a self-damaging cycle. You feel responsible for the emotional weather even when you did not create it. Your attention moves toward discomfort like a radar searching for new storms. This constant emotional scanning drains your energy faster than conflict itself. Dark psychology explains that manipulators see this radar as an open gateway. They understand you react to tension more than insult, they understand your reflex. Machiavelli once said, "If you show your nature too early, you lose control." Gentle minds reveal their emotional codes before understanding who is reading them. Your silence reveals guilt, your soft tone reveals hesitation, your patience reveals tolerance. Cruel minds read these codes like a manual written only for their advantage. They learn when you break, when you apologize, when you compromise, and when you collapse. Then they adjust their strategy not through force, but through subtle psychological choreography. You think the situation is complicated, but they are only using your transparency. Your kindness becomes a predictable pattern they can easily bend. The first hidden pattern trapping gentle minds is unequal emotional investment. You feel deeply even when the situation does not require depth. Others feel lightly even when the situation demands responsibility. This imbalance creates silent suffering that never gets acknowledged or repaid. You wait for reciprocity while the other side waits for your next soft reaction. You keep giving clarity to people who give confusion back to you. This loop keeps you unhappy because your emotional effort is never returned meaningfully. The second hidden pattern is unconscious self-blame that you treat as maturity. You blame yourself first because you want to stay fair and understanding. You believe that taking responsibility creates peace, but it creates vulnerability instead. Manipulators love people who apologize before analyzing reality. They understand that guilt weakens your ability to see psychological patterns clearly. Once they link your identity to being understanding, you fear disappointing them more. You correct yourself, but never correct them. You protect their emotions before your own. Your gentle nature becomes a shield they hide behind while hurting you freely. The third hidden pattern is emotional dependency built from selective kindness. Cruel minds never stay cruel all the time, they choose strategic softness. They give small moments of warmth whenever they feel you drifting away. You feel grateful, you forgive everything, you believe the connection still has hope. This creates a loop inside your mind, danger, then comfort, then danger again. Your gentle nature loves the comfort, but forgets the danger that came before it. This cycle is called reinforcement confusion, and it quietly destroys inner stability. You stay because you want the warm moments, not because the bond is healthy. Your heart waits for softness that was designed as bait, not connection. Albert Bandura once said, if the environment shapes the mind, then patterns shape identity. Gentle minds growing inside manipulative environments develop false psychological beliefs. They think protecting themselves is selfish. They think saying no is harsh. They think withdrawing is disrespectful. They think prioritizing themselves is disloyal. These beliefs block every healthy boundary long before a boundary is even needed. Your mind becomes trained to avoid discomfort, even when discomfort is the correct response. This makes you an easy target for people who test limits without hesitation. They push you little by little until you cannot recognize your own threshold. Your emotional system becomes a playground for those who never plan to care. Dark psychology warns about a fourth pattern: silent expectation traps. Others expect you to be calm even when they are chaotic. They expect you to understand even when they do not explain anything. They expect you to stay patient even when they cross limits repeatedly. You try to meet these expectations because you want peace, not power. Yet the more you meet them, the more they increase. Gentle people drown in expectations created by those who give nothing back. A gentle mind sees conflict as danger, but cruel minds see conflict as leverage. You retreat when tension rises, they advance when tension rises. You try to cool the environment, they use the heat to control outcomes. So every conflict ends with you repairing what they destroyed. Your discomfort becomes their currency. Every argument drains you but strengthens them. You never notice this because you confuse silence with peace. True peace requires respect and balance, not fear of speaking up. Your biggest enemy is not cruelty, it is your fear of creating discomfort. You would rather absorb pain than cause temporary unrest. This fear is why manipulators never fear losing you. They know you will bend before breaking, they know you will return before leaving. Your absence is short, your patience is long, and your guilt is immediate. These traits are beautiful but easily weaponized inside a manipulative structure. Here is the subtle truth: gentle minds stay unhappy because they fight invisible battles. They are fighting for fairness while others are fighting for advantage. You are playing a moral game in an environment built on psychological currency. Your rules protect others, their rules protect themselves. Your values teach you to heal their wounds, their values teach them to use yours. But what happens when a gentle mind finally learns how to match kindness with power? Do you know why your silence becomes a battlefield without you noticing? You think you withdraw to protect peace, but it becomes their advantage. If you want to stay gentle without staying wounded, understand what silence exposes. A gentle mind uses silence to think, feel, and stabilize emotions. This silence is healing for you, but revealing for manipulative personalities. They do not see your quiet nature as depth, they see it as submission. They study your pauses, they measure your delays, they watch your hesitation. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects your fears more than your intentions. This is how a gentle personality becomes readable long before it becomes respected. Machiavelli once said, if others learn your patterns, they can move you like water. Cruel minds use this principle with perfect precision around gentle temperaments. They test how long your silence lasts before you break into explanation. They test how quickly you bend when they create sudden emotional pressure. They test how fast you apologize when they show disappointment without reason. And every test reveals another part of your psychological blueprint. Gentle minds fall into a subtle trap that experts call emotional transparency. Your face shows discomfort, your voice softens, your breathing changes, your attention shifts. You do not hide these signals because you believe honesty is the foundation of humanity. But manipulators read transparency as an instruction manual, not a moral trait. They understand exactly where your boundaries soften and where your conscience takes over. They learn the pace of your emotional reactions and adjust their tactics accordingly. Dark psychology sees this as predictive conditioning, a slow training process that shapes you. Your inner world becomes predictable because you try to avoid conflict at every cost. You enter every interaction with a pre-written rule that says stay gentle even under pressure. Manipulators operate with a rule that says pressure reveals control. This opposite approach creates an emotional imbalance that keeps you unhappy. You protect harmony, they protect dominance. The outcome is always one-sided. The first hidden mechanism in this imbalance is emotional mirroring pressure. Cruel minds mirror your emotional tone only when they want compliance. They soften their voice. When they need you, they sharpen it when you resist. This creates a shifting emotional landscape that keeps you alert and unsettled. Your nervous system tries to match their tone because you want connection, not conflict. They know this, they deliberately shift tones to shape your next move. The second hidden mechanism is psychological withdrawal designed to create fear. Gentle minds are deeply affected by sudden emotional distance. You interpret silence as danger, you interpret coldness as failure, you interpret distance as rejection. Others use this by pulling back at the exact moment you show strength. You step back briefly to protect yourself, they take a bigger step back to punish your strength. Your system panics, you return with softness, they return with control. This loop repeats until your boundaries lose their shape entirely. The third hidden mechanism is controlled confusion. Manipulators give mixed signals that force your mind into overthinking. You try to decode meaning, you try to fix tone, you try to maintain stability. Your overthinking becomes their psychological advantage because confusion weakens certainty. The more confused you feel, the more guidance you seek. The more guidance you seek, the more power they gain. Albert Bandura once said, if confusion is repeated, the mind learns helplessness slowly. Gentle minds fall into this without realizing they are being systematically shaped. You start believing the problem is your sensitivity, not their manipulation. You think clarity feels selfish, you think boundaries feel aggressive. Your inner voice softens to a whisper while their influence grows louder. Another deep pattern that keeps gentle minds unhappy is internal guilt conditioning. You feel guilty for protecting your own mental state. You feel guilty for stepping away. You feel guilty for saying no. Cruel minds understand this and use guilt as a psychological anchor. They only need to suggest you disappointed them, and your inner world collapses. You rush to fix the discomfort before even checking if you caused it. Your self-blame becomes faster than their accusation. They no longer need to control you directly. You start controlling yourself in a way that benefits them. Dark psychology reveals that gentle minds become unhappy because they misinterpret discomfort. You believe discomfort means failure. Manipulators believe discomfort means leverage. You avoid it, they use it. This difference is the root of your emotional exhaustion. Gentle minds often hold an idealistic belief about emotional reciprocity. You think your patience will be returned, you think your compassion will be seen. You wait for understanding, you wait for validation, you wait for balance. But manipulators do not operate on reciprocity, they operate on psychological economy. They invest only where they gain and withdraw when they feel no advantage. Your kindness produces emotional currency. They spend freely without giving anything back. You call it generosity, they call it supply. You also carry a hidden expectation that sincerity will be recognized. You believe people will see your pure intention and adjust their behavior. But cruel minds see intention as irrelevant. They respond only to boundaries, consequences, and strength. They do not care how good you are, they care how easy you are to use. Your gentle heart becomes a tool, not a connection. Here is the deepest unseen reason gentle minds stay unhappy. They misunderstand their own power. You mistake softness for weakness and firmness for cruelty. So you live in the middle, unable to choose either direction. You are not fully kind because you are exhausted. You are not fully firm because you fear conflict. You remain suspended between two incomplete identities. This psychological split keeps you in a constant emotional fog. Manipulators feel this fog before you do. They sense when you hesitate, they sense when you seek approval. They sense when you are tired but cannot detach. These moments become their silent opportunities. They push when you hesitate, they pull when you need comfort. They confuse you until your emotional compass loses clarity. A gentle mind without boundaries becomes a silent reservoir for other people's chaos. You absorb storms that were never yours. You apologize for disruptions you never created. You stabilize emotions that were never your responsibility. Slowly, your inner peace dissolves under the weight of emotional duties. The tragedy is not your sensitivity. The tragedy is that you were never taught how to protect that sensitivity. You were trained to be open without being guarded. You were trained to give without learning regulation. You were trained to understand others without understanding manipulation. But here is the twist that changes everything. Your gentleness is not the flaw. Your lack of psychological armor is. What happens when a gentle mind learns to stay open, yet remain untouchable at the same time? Do you know why your kindness feels like a doorway others keep entering? You sense intentions before words, but ignore the patterns shaping your reactions. If you want your gentle heart to stop breaking, understand what your openness reveals. A gentle mind believes emotional clarity creates safety, but dark psychology reveals otherwise. Clarity exposes your internal map. It shows where you bend and where you break. Manipulative personalities use this map like a strategist reading battlefield terrain. They learn which emotions calm you and which emotions collapse you. Your honesty becomes a compass they follow to guide your reactions without force. You think you are being authentic, but they see predictable access to influence. Machiavelli once said, "If your nature is visible, your power becomes invisible." Gentle minds display their nature openly because they do not fear transparency. Yet this openness becomes a psychological weakness in environments driven by dominance. Cruel minds hide their intentions while studying yours carefully and patiently. They take advantage of your emotional codes long before you realize you revealed them. Your empathy becomes the key that unlocks every door you try to close quietly. One silent trap gentle minds fall into is emotional overexposure. You reveal too much meaning through tone, pace, posture, and reactions. You are honest even when honesty harms your stability. You speak from sincerity while others speak from strategy. This difference becomes a subtle imbalance that grows stronger with time. You walk into interactions with trust, and others walk in with calculation. Your emotional truth becomes an open archive that manipulative minds access freely. Another hidden mechanism is value displacement. Gentle minds value harmony far above personal power and emotional distance. When someone disrupts your peace, you work immediately to restore stability. You apologize for tone, you soften your voice, you try to fix tension instantly. Manipulators interpret this urgency as proof of your dependence. The more they disrupt your peace, the more control they gain over your reactions. This becomes an invisible cycle where they create instability, and you repair it endlessly. Your nervous system becomes trained to respond to emotional shifts before logical analysis. You sense discomfort the moment it appears and internalize responsibility instantly. You never pause to ask if the discomfort was engineered by someone else. Your sensitivity becomes a tool used against you gently, but consistently. You lose happiness not because you lack strength, but because you carry every emotional burden. Your gentle nature turns into emotional labor that no one acknowledges or returns. Albert Bandura once said, "If a mind learns imbalance, it repeats that imbalance everywhere." Gentle personalities repeat emotional overgiving across every environment. They over-explain, they over-justify, they over-comfort, and they over-apologize. This repetition creates emotional fatigue that feels like unhappiness without a clear cause. You think you are drained because you care deeply, but you are drained because you carry too much. Caring is not the problem, the lack of boundaries is. Dark psychology highlights another subtle mechanism: selective reciprocation. Manipulators offer kindness only when they sense you pulling away. This kindness is calculated, not natural, and serves one purpose: only control. They give softness when you distance and hardness when you assert strength. You become conditioned to seek their warmth as proof of connection. Yet that warmth arrives only when it benefits them, not when you need it most. Your gentle mind confuses this selective kindness with genuine affection. Your emotional intelligence becomes trapped in a loop of reward and deprivation. The next psychological trap is emotional responsibility distortion. You feel responsible for managing the emotional climate around you constantly. You think your tone controls the atmosphere. You think your patience prevents conflict. You become the guardian of everyone's comfort while no one guards yours. Manipulators exploit this by acting hurt whenever you resist their influence. Your guilt activates immediately, and your boundaries collapse instantly. You apologize for actions you never intended and reactions you did not own. Your sense of responsibility becomes their invisible authority over you. Gentle minds also break under the pressure of moral identity. You want to stay kind even when cruelty surrounds you. You want to remain compassionate even when people exploit your compassion. You want to stay understanding even when understanding destroys your stability. Your values become a cage if not paired with awareness and strategic thinking. Manipulative personalities know this. They push exactly where your values restrict your choices. Your moral identity becomes your silent vulnerability. Dark psychology explains a deeper truth: your emotional clarity is too pure for this environment. You feel deeply, but the world around you values advantage more than sincerity. You want to resolve tension, but others want to use tension as leverage. You seek connection, but others seek dominance. You measure intentions while they measure outcomes. This mismatch makes you unhappy even when nothing dramatic happens. Your gentle nature does not fit the psychological economy operating around you. Another hidden pattern is emotional speed mismatch. Gentle minds process emotions slowly, thoughtfully, and with depth. Manipulative people process emotions rapidly and tactically. You think before speaking, they speak before thinking. You analyze your feelings, they analyze your reactions. Your slow depth becomes a weakness in fast, manipulative environments. You want sincerity, they want control. Your pace makes you vulnerable because you are always reacting, not predicting. You also carry the illusion of emotional fairness. You believe if you stay consistent, others will match your emotional integrity. But manipulators do not respond to fairness, they respond to psychological opportunity. They push where you hesitate, they pull where you attach, they escalate where you stay calm. Your gentle nature becomes predictable currency they spend without consequence. Another deep layer of unhappiness comes from self-erasure. You shrink yourself to avoid discomfort, you silence your needs to keep peace. You speak softly to prevent misunderstanding, you tolerate disrespect to protect harmony. Every act of self-erasure removes a piece of your identity. Over time, your emotional world becomes shaped by other people's expectations. Your needs feel heavy, your boundaries feel rude, your voice feels dangerous. You forget who you were before trying to become someone easy to handle. Machiavelli once said, "If others define your limits, you no longer own yourself." Gentle minds let others define limits because they fear becoming unkind. But refusing to set boundaries is not kindness, it is silent self-destruction. Your values should protect you, not punish you. Your kindness should be a strength, not a tool for exploitation. Here is the unseen truth: your gentleness is a rare resource. It is valuable, powerful, and transformative, but only when protected wisely. Without protection, it becomes emotional fuel for people who give nothing back. You lose joy because you live in emotional overextension without psychological guardrails. You lose stability because you confuse compassion with compliance. You lose inner peace because you absorb more than any mind should carry. But the story does not end here. A gentle mind can become untouchable without becoming cold. A gentle heart can gain power without losing softness. A sensitive temperament can learn strategy without losing purity. The real question is this: what happens when a gentle mind learns the psychological weapons usually used against it? Do you know why your inner peace collapses the moment someone shifts their tone? You sense danger instantly, yet pretend nothing is happening to stay polite. If you want your gentle mind to stop breaking, understand the silent weapons used on you. A gentle mind reacts to emotional tone faster than logical meaning. This speed becomes a vulnerability inside environments shaped by manipulation. You feel the atmosphere changing long before any words are spoken. Your body tightens, your focus shifts, your thoughts become soft and cautious. You try to stabilize the mood even when you did not disrupt it. Dark psychology calls this emotional forecasting, the reflex to protect harmony before harm appears. Manipulators see this forecasting as obedience, not sensitivity. Cruel personalities use a weapon called emotional anchoring. They attach your stability to their unpredictable behavior. When they offer warmth, you relax. When they withdraw warmth, you collapse. Your happiness becomes tied to their approval, your panic tied to their disappointment. You stop evaluating their behavior and start evaluating your own reactions. This is how gentle minds lose autonomy without seeing any direct force applied. Machiavelli once said, "If uncertainty controls them, you no longer need pressure." Gentle minds crumble under uncertainty because they seek clarity above conflict. Manipulators create unclear signals to keep you emotionally dependent. They praise you in small doses and criticize you in large doses. You accept this ratio because you believe the praise is real and the criticism is your fault. Your gentle nature becomes trained to chase the smallest emotional reward. This chase keeps you unhappy without a clear explanation. Another hidden attack is boundary corrosion. Manipulators never break boundaries directly, they soften them slowly. They begin with small requests, then emotional demands, then subtle guilt. They make you feel difficult whenever you try to protect your energy. You adjust your limits to keep peace without realizing you are losing yourself. Your gentle nature becomes proof that you can be pushed without resistance. Then comes the psychological weapon called emotional substitution. Manipulators replace your genuine needs with artificial obligations. You think you need to be understood, but they convince you that you owe understanding. You think you need respect, but they convince you to earn their approval. You think you need clarity, but they convince you that patience is your moral duty. Your needs become invisible even to you because they get replaced by tasks. Tasks for harmony, tasks for reassurance, tasks for keeping them satisfied. Your happiness fades because satisfaction becomes a job, not a state. Albert Bandura once said, "If a mind repeats survival behaviors, it forgets freedom." Gentle minds fall into survival mode without realizing it. You survive moods, you survive tone, you survive silence, you survive pressure. You call it maturity, but it is internal imprisonment. You live in emotional anticipation, not emotional presence. You react quickly, but express slowly. You feel deeply, but speak gently. These contradictions drain your psychological strength, one piece at a time. Dark psychology exposes another pattern: emotional inversion. Manipulators reverse the direction of responsibility with effortless precision. When they act unfair, they say you overreact. When they withdraw affection, they say you became distant. When they disrespect you, they say you misunderstood their intention. You carry the weight of both sides and break quietly under the imbalance. Your gentle heart takes responsibility even for the cruelty directed at it. Another subtle trap is identity distortion. You start shaping your behavior around avoiding their disappointment. You abandon your preferences, your voice, your comfort, and even your truth. You adjust to their reactions rather than your own principles. You call it compromise, but it is self-deletion. Your gentle nature becomes a mask that hides your shrinking identity. Manipulators also use the tactic of emotional contrast. They give sudden warmth after coldness to confuse your emotional compass. Your mind feels relief and calls it connection, but it is manipulation. You start associating discomfort with potential comfort, not danger. Your system becomes addicted to temporary relief offered by the same person who created the pain. This cycle destroys inner peace, and you never fully understand why. Another deep wound gentle minds carry is overacceptance. You forgive quickly, you understand too much, you justify too easily. Your compassion becomes approval, your acceptance becomes tolerance. You give chances not because they are deserved, but because your heart cannot refuse. This creates a path for continuous exploitation disguised as emotional maturity. Machiavelli once said, "If you allow small losses, you invite greater ones." Gentle minds allow small emotional losses to keep relationships stable. But each small loss teaches others where your breaking point lies. Over time, your psychological territory shrinks. You have no space left for your own needs, only space for maintaining others. This is why you wake up tired, even after doing nothing visibly exhausting. The deepest reason gentle minds stay unhappy is internal displacement. You place your peace after their comfort, your boundaries after their moods. You give your emotional capacity to people who never protect it. You become the caretaker of everyone's inner storms except your own. Your happiness dissolves because it is always postponed in service of someone else's stability. Yet the greatest secret remains untouched. Your gentleness was never meant to serve manipulation, it was meant to shape power. Your softness can become strategic, your empathy can become insight. Your calm can become authority, your depth can become protection. The real question is this: what happens when a gentle mind stops reacting like prey and starts thinking like a strategist? Do you know why your soul feels heavier even when nothing is wrong outside? You sense invisible pressure, but you cannot name the source clearly. If you want to end this lifelong exhaustion, understand the final hidden truth. A gentle mind is not weak, it is untrained. You were taught compassion, but never taught psychological strategy. You learned how to heal wounds, but never learned how to defend your inner world. You mastered emotional depth, but never mastered emotional boundaries. This imbalance created a life where you understand everyone except yourself. Dark psychology reveals a final pattern that explains your unhappiness. Manipulators do not break you by force, they break you through identity erosion. They make you doubt your worth, they make you question your reactions. They turn your sensitivity into embarrassment and your empathy into liability. You start hiding your softness like a flaw and showing your silence like a shield. But silence without clarity becomes submission, and softness without direction becomes chaos. Machiavelli once said, "If you lose yourself, you lose the battle before it begins." Gentle minds lose themselves slowly in the name of peace. You stop choosing, you start adjusting, you stop expressing, you start absorbing. Your calm becomes a service, your patience becomes a duty, your kindness becomes unpaid work. You keep people stable, but no one stabilizes you. Your inner world collapses quietly under the weight of unreturned emotional labor. The deepest manipulation used against gentle minds is psychological role reversal. You become the helper even when you need help. You become the listener even when you need understanding. You become the forgiver even when you are the one wounded. Your identity becomes defined by what others need, not by who you are. This reversal makes you forget that you are allowed to receive, not only give. Albert Bandura once said, "If a mind forgets its own agency, it accepts any environment." Gentle minds accept environments that hurt them because they see leaving as cruelty. You stay because you understand too much, you stay because you feel too much. You stay because you hope your goodness will inspire change. But cruelty does not change through kindness, cruelty changes only through consequence. You were never taught this truth, so you kept waiting for transformation that never arrives. Dark psychology exposes another final mechanism gentle minds must break to find peace. It is called emotional loyalty trapping. You remain loyal to a person's potential instead of their reality. You stay loyal to their moments of softness while ignoring their patterns of harm. You protect their image more than your own well-being. You hold their excuses while dropping your needs. This loyalty drains your happiness from the inside until nothing warm remains. Then comes the most silent enemy: internal censorship. You stop saying how you feel because you fear conflict. You stop asking for clarity because you fear being misunderstood. You stop demanding respect because you fear appearing harsh. You think you are choosing peace, but you are choosing silence over identity. Your desires shrink, your voice shrinks, your presence shrinks. Your gentle nature becomes invisible in a world that only respects visible strength. But here is the twist most gentle minds never realize until too late. Your sensitivity is not the weakness. Your lack of self-protection is the weakness. The world does not need you to become cruel. It needs you to become strategically kind. The type of kind that sees patterns clearly. The type of kind that understands boundaries are acts of self-respect. The type of kind that recognizes manipulation without absorbing guilt. The type of kind that chooses peace without sacrificing identity. Dark psychology shows the transformation begins when a gentle mind unlearns 3 false beliefs. First, the belief that saying no is unkind. Second, the belief that protecting your peace is selfish. Third, the belief that emotional distance equals emotional coldness. Once these beliefs collapse, you regain psychological freedom. Your empathy becomes intelligence, not burden. Your calm becomes strength, not silence. Your softness becomes choice, not obligation. Your presence becomes respected, not exploited. Machiavelli once said, "If you control your inner world, no outer force owns you." Gentle minds rise the moment they stop being predictable. You become untouchable when your kindness is no longer automatic. You become powerful when your silence is intentional, not fearful. You become respected when your boundaries stay firm, even under emotional pressure. Once you learn this hidden system, your happiness stops depending on others. You choose where your energy flows, you choose who earns your depth. You protect your emotional territory like something sacred, because it is sacred. Your gentle nature becomes a shield, not a wound. Your soft heart becomes a weapon of clarity, not a target for cruelty. And now the final question remains. If your gentle mind finally learns to stay open, yet remain emotionally untouchable, what part of your life becomes unrecognizable first?